So Laura had applied for a passport for her daughter Harriet, who's 7, to go on holiday to Disneyland. But there was delay reported from the passport office. Because of that, Laura had to rebook her holiday, and it's cost the family around about £900. And she's been frantic with worry over it over the last few weeks. It looks to have been solved now, but it's cost her a lot of grief and upset within the family. And it's not unusual. I've had about 20 constituents come to me about these sorts of issues in the last few weeks, and I've had to raise it with government ministers because I've been getting really poor answers.
And yes, you forced ministers to what we call the dispatch box. You forced ministers to reply to what is known as an urgent question in Parliament last week about this. What were you asking for?
I was trying to find out what's going on at the Home Office. Because of the delays I'd experienced, I raised it with the Speaker. He realised it was a big issue, not just in Blaenau Gwent, but across the country too. And when we had this urgent question, which is when the Minister is hauled in to the chamber to hear questions from other MPs, it became clear that it's been a big problem. Many people, other MPs, talked about waiting for hours to get an answer on the telephone. We're supposed to have a special service, an MP's hotline,
yes, yeah.
But that's been failing.
Really?
Yeah.
Just to explain that MP's hotline, so because I would have had it too when I was an MP, so MPs can sort of call a direct line if a constituent comes to their MP and say, please help me, my passport's supposed to be here and there's no sign of it. But even that MP's hotline is you've been having difficulty getting through on that?
It's failed. The telephony system has let everybody down. I've had caseworkers of mine spending hours on the phone and being unable to get through. I've had my caseworker at the House of Commons go through downstairs to the Home Office. Staff supposed to be there to help us, but the team there in Parliament, can't get through on their systems to look at the cases you bring to them. It's been a fiasco.
And I guess one thing that has been unique about the current situation is, of course, during the pandemic, nobody travelled. So lots of us didn't bother renewing our passports. So there's a lot of pent-up demand. And perhaps this is just one of those things that's happened because everyone's suddenly applying for passports when they haven't over 2 years, that it's unforeseen circumstances.
Well, you could make that case, although you could also say, after 2 years of not being able to get away, it would be predictable that passport applications would go up. Ministers have just said recently that this year there'll be over 9 million people putting in passport applications. And so that's something that needs to be addressed much sooner rather than later. It's been a problem these last few weeks, but I want to try and make sure, and other MPs too, being fair, banging the drum and saying, listen, you've got to get this right for the summer so that people can get away.
And to be fair to the government, they are employing more staff. They are.
They've told us, I think, there's going to be 700 more staff and there's going to be extra telephony. So all that's good. And you applaud them for that because it's important that someone does something good, you say, thumbs up. However, in recent weeks, when I've said to the government, how big is the backlog? How many people are waiting? It used to be 3 weeks to get a passport application through the government sausage machine. Now it's 10 weeks. When are you going to be able to get back to 3 weeks? And I've asked them, I think, 9 further parliamentary questions in the last few days to try to get to the bottom of this. And it's hard to understand what the government's metrics are for improving performance over the next few months. So I hope to get answers this next week from the government, which will help people who will be concerned about their summer holidays. But the last few weeks has made me a little bit afraid things could be worse than we'd all hope.
And just for people who might be in the same predicament as those in your constituency, it's probably still worth them going to see their MP, isn't it, for you to have a go at whether you can speed things up. Is that right? Yeah,
of course. And listen, and what I say to all constituents is send me as much information as possible, as early as possible, and then we can take it up for you. Do it by email in the first instance so we can bang it off to the Home Office and seek their support. But the most important thing is the Home Office get their act together. These new staff that are in the pipeline need to be able to have access to the systems as soon as possible, and they need to be able to turn it around too. There's been some problems, by the way, with the delivery team who've been sending passports out to people. At the start of this year, over 1,000 passports and documents were lost out of the system. Got to make sure they get the quality right as well. I'm going to ask the Public Accounts Committee later on today. I'm a member of that, to look into this issue to see if that can be helped. Maybe the National Audit Office could do a quick investigation.
And that just looks at whether government's money is being spent as effectively as our money, say the government's money, it's taxpayers' money, whether it's being put to the best use.